Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, the big and furry bovine. Joining me today on the panel, Brian, Tony, and Peter. And Derek is going to be with us around 6:30. He has a friend that's visiting him from out of town. So he said he'd try to sneak in here around 6:30. There's one main thing that I want to talk about before a whole subset of things. The first thing is, y'all been following Twitter and you've been following the news, trying to find out what the Browns are doing, and you couldn't dodge the Deshaun Watson stuff that was being talked about. And what it boils down to me is those people who really wanted him, and I'm not sure that they really did. I think that a lot of them were trying to stir up shit. But for those people who really did, you think that OBJ is a prima donna. Here's a guy who's got 22 women accusing him of violating them. 22. He hasn't gone through the civil court yet, but he's not going to be tried as part of a criminal investigation. Great. What happens when people all day yesterday just make shit up that, Cleveland's going to go after them. They're going to throw the whole house, the pond, the backyard, and their mother and mother-in-law into the deal. And then in the end, the person who they were trying to state, Albright, the guy who,
Broncos,
has been
the reporter.
Yeah, look, the guy's been tweeting ever since. I never said this, I never said this, and I never said this. I mean, they just were using him as an all-inclusive source and putting words into his mouth. What it came down to is what he says. It was never alive. The talks ceased before they began. And the reason why? What was the reason why?
He said that the big things is, one, the Texans, they don't want to trade Watson to an AFC North team, just an AFC team in general. And then also Watson, he said he wants to play in a warm weather city. So that takes out Cleveland, and then he also just want to play for a good team. So he already declined the Seahawks.
Jim Hammer, are we getting confirmation on Allen Robinson?
As far as I know, the Browns are one of three teams that are interested in Robinson.
I haven't heard anything on that.
I haven't heard that he's signed with anybody or is
I'm seeing nothing
going to sign on the 16th.
All right, because I've heard nothing, and I was still scouring minutes before the show. But here's the deal that bothers me. The last rapist quarterback in the NFL had no trouble playing in cold weather. So we have a picky rapist quarterback who doesn't want to play in cold weather. This is a guy who should be grateful he's going to have any career whatsoever.
People are
won't be playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers either.
People are getting duped by a fake Adam Schefter account.
Oh, that thing?
Signed. No,
nice try.
It was a fake account, everybody. They are one of the teams involved, but he is not signed.
Yeah, and I've heard that it was down to the Lions and the Browns, basically.
Lions, Browns, and Chiefs.
But the last time I saw the Chiefs, it was Ixnay, and it was the Lions and the Browns. So be that as it may, it's not like Allen Robinson is my be-all, end-all, not by any stretch of the imagination. But you've got a guy who could have been weeks away from not having any NFL career at all. And let me liken this to something because, we were all young at one time. And you remember the high school quarterback, the jock, the good-looking guy, and around prom time, he was going to go with the homecoming queen to the prom. You know how that worked out? It happened that way in virtually everybody's high school. I never once saw a situation in all the years I was in high school where the king jock, the good-looking buff guy, asked out a dumpy, really smart girl. I never saw it happen once. And it doesn't happen in football either. And, the reason, Cleveland fans, you can't be so gullible. Cleveland, I keep telling you, we're the fat dumpy girl. Take my word for it. There are not people who are rushing to get here. And the people who do come here, God bless Jarvis Landry, and good luck to him, were people who wanted to make a difference on the field. The rest of the people, as far as I'm concerned, are just a bunch of people who are going to use you to boost an offer, or they're going to summarily dismiss you because of weather. Okay? And that sounds exactly like what the quarterback would do in high school. I mean, if the dumpy smart girl had a crush on him, he would say, oh, no, I'm going to be out of town. Whatever it is that comes to his mind that just dismisses the entire possibility of going to the prom with the dumpy smart girl. He's going to get that out of the way. And that's really where it started and where it ended with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I just want to add real quick. The only reason Browns fans are still clamoring about it because Albright, he did say the Browns are going to get a meeting, but I mean, it's just a meeting at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, let me explain something the way business is done. And I know that the majority of these people are younger people on the internet. And I hate saying younger people because it's like, get off of my lawn. It isn't like that. But a lot of these people who are on there just trolling and they're just laughing amongst themselves saying, oh, let's see if we can post the most ridiculous thing and see how many people we can get pissed off. That to me is like not only a waste of time, it's a waste of resources. And fans are the reason we have a football team, Northeast Ohio. And it was my generation. If you remember when we lost the team in 1995, and the people who were doing this shit on Twitter do not remember because they were not around. When they took the team away from Cleveland and let it move out of town and let it go to Baltimore, the fans that clamored the loudest and the hardest didn't give a shit if it was Deshaun Watson or Baker Mayfield or whatever. They wanted a football team. Things could be a whole lot worse, you little clamoring pricks. You could be in the middle of the Jaguar quagmire or have no football team at all. So respect your elders, you little pricks. And I say that with all due seriousness. If you have any desire to ever be involved in media or reporting, this ain't the way to go about it. And if you don't, and you're on there for a bunch of laughs or whatever, so be it. But when you mislead people into things and you do things that hurt the families of players, you post things that are really rotten things. I'll give you a good example today. I was just making a point about something, and, somebody just tweeted to me because the person involved was, who's the radio guy in Cleveland? Is it Rizzo?
Rizzo?
He was arrested back in 2014.
Oh, Tony Rizzo.
Yeah. And the guy says, this is what he did back in 2014. And, I don't want to get into salacious shit like that. I hope that Tony Rizzo's gotten his life together since then. I hope that, and it doesn't bear repeating, something that happened, 8 years ago. It just doesn't bear repeating. I don't understand what the point is, how we use social media to insult people, to denigrate them. I'm reading stories about, well, Baker Mayfield got jerked off in a car when he was married and he cheated on his wife, and I'm getting all of this, and it's like,
Oh, yeah, no, the big one this weekend was that Rashard Higgins is sleeping with Baker Mayfield's wife. And I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing that is really ugly. And it's why I choose to speak about this part of it, because this has nothing to do with trolling people and getting a little chuckle out of things. People writing things that are actually hurting people. And whether it's hurting Emily Mayfield or Baker Mayfield or his family or whatever, it's unacceptable. It isn't part of what we talk about. And there are some things that we just shut up about, and we let due process handle whatever the hell it is. Now, I'm glad that Watson's not here, and he proved it by saying, "Oh, I don't want to go to a cold weather team." Well, then, if you can't win in cold weather, it's a bullshit reason, for one thing. All right. You should have the balls to just come out and say, "I really would rather not play in Cleveland." I'd have a lot more respect for you. But instead, you give that blow-off answer. Fact is, no matter where he plays, he is going to play in cold weather. And if he has any aspirations to get into the playoffs, well, there's a real good chance the road's going to go through Cincinnati, Cleveland, Buffalo, you name them. We got them. There's lots of lake effect and lots of cold weather. New England, there's a lot of it. Going to have to play in cold weather, so don't give me that shit. Now, the Allen Robinson thing, I am not really at all high on that, because if you have, and we'll talk about Amari Cooper, of course, in just a minute, but if you have Amari Cooper and you have Allen Robinson, it's not good enough.
But he's an upgrade from Higgins. And that's
anybody's a fucking upgrade from what they had before. Like, fucking.
So,
Gronk's an upgrade, and he's not even a football player.
And I think that they would still draft somebody who's substantially better than Allen Robinson anyway.
Well, and here's the deal. And it's what my concern is. You can't waste big money on Allen Robinson, and you've got a draft coming up. You got that number 13 pick. The way I look at Amari Cooper, and I am probably going to take flack for this. Amari Cooper takes Jarvis Landry's place, okay? And I know people are going to go, but he runs a 4.42, and he's, I did a lot of reading about Amari Cooper. He runs great routes. He's a great addition to the team. Don't get all excited. But the fact of the matter is that him and Allen Robinson side by side ain't going to scare nobody. It isn't going to make our running game better. It isn't going to do what we need to do to get good enough. This is the time where the team has to invest to become good enough. And what is good enough? You're going to be compared with the Bills. You're going to be compared with the Bengals. And you got to move with the current, or else the current's going to swallow you up and drown you. The answer is your 13 pick must be a wide receiver. It must be a prolific one. And you must be in a position to go up, if necessary, from 13 to 7 to take Wilson away from the Falcons. You have to be prepared to do this. And if you're not prepared to do that, and you're willing to settle for something that's secondary, then you're going to get secondary results. The fact is, Amari Cooper, what I like about Amari Cooper is that he runs great routes, and that, interestingly enough, he does get downfield. He is not a guy who gets targeted a ton on the deep ball, but he converts a very high percentage of what is thrown to him deep. His pattern running is so effective, he can beat people deep, but he is not a field stretcher. That is not his role. His role, when he averages 13 yards per catch, 12.7, upwards to 14 at the highest, his role is to get you first downs. He is a younger Jarvis Landry, a little faster. That's who he is. That's what he's going to be paid to do. $20 million. It doesn't seem so bad when Christian Kirk got $18 million. It doesn't look that bad, but it's still a ton of fucking money. I mean, the prices are just exorbitant for the talent that's out there.
And it's still better than paying two guys $32 million.
Yeah. And, from my perspective, I want Wilson in the draft. That's the guy I want.
Me too.
And, you know, the thing is, I can live with getting a defensive end in the second round. I can live with that.
Yeah, there's some good names too.
Yep. I can totally live with that. But I cannot live knowing that we are in a judgment year for our quarterback. We cannot put anything less than the very best that we can put out offensively. And that's going to mean that, you know, and here's the other thing that bothers me. And again, this is just all the stuff that floats in my cow brain. If you bring in Allen Robinson and your 1-2 punch is Amari Cooper and Allen Robinson, you don't have 3 wide receiver sets in Cleveland because of the coach. You have tight ends, 2 of them on the field at virtually all time. And you can't afford to be paying Amari Cooper $20 million and not have him out on the field. You can't afford to pay Allen Robinson whatever he's going to command to have him come in and out of the game. Or you're going to sit Donovan Peoples-Jones. You know, for me, the answer is get another prolific receiver in the draft and then use Donovan Peoples-Jones as your third receiver and save as far as free agency to get what you're looking for, because you're not going to see Jadeveon Clowney. My goodness. If Emmanuel Ogbah made the money that he made, I swear to God, Clowney must have been jerking off when he heard that. Honest to God. I mean, and God bless Emmanuel Ogbah. He's a hard worker, was a great teammate in Cleveland, and he deserves the money. Not because it's a reasonable amount, but because somebody paid him that amount, and thank God he's taken care of for life. Good for him. But if that's the going price, man, draft one in the second round. Seriously.
And Albright, he said that he saw that Clowney, he would like to play for a contender, but that's secondary for him. Right now, he's just looking for a big payday.
It's money. Because he's on the verge of just getting injured. I mean, every football player is, but when you have a history of it, you know, it was like I was reading how the Bengals have fortified their offensive line. And again, you have to keep an eye out for what your competitors are doing, not just what your team is doing. And the Bengals got themselves, you know, 2 offensive linemen. All right. Alex Kappa. That's a 4-year, $40 million deal with the Bengals. All right. So that's a good investment, a big investment. A 3-year, $18 million deal with Patriots center guard Ted Karras. And they re-signed B.J. Hill, their tackle, to a 3-year, $30 million. Right? So, but here's the thing that's interesting. Kappa came out of Humboldt State, and isn't that the way it goes with offensive linemen? They transitioned him from a male to a female. No, they transitioned him from an offensive tackle to a guard when he got with the Buccaneers, and he earned a starting role in 2019. All right. As for Karras, he was a 6th-round pick of the Patriots in the 2016 draft. The thing that's interesting about this is that Kappa, who is the guy who they are counting on, he's only 27. He suffered a fractured ankle when the Bucs beat Washington 2 seasons ago. He tried to play through it, and he finished out the season giving up just 1 sack. He returned in 2021, played all 17 games. He really had good statistics, 400 pass blocking wins, tied for the most on the team, and he surrendered 10 sacks. All right. So you're trying to get a young guy, but he has already had an injury that kept him out for most of the season. And, you know, again, the problem with free agency is the tried and the true, the guys who have been in the league could be one step away from massive injury. So they're doing what they have to do in Cincinnati. And what we have to do is we have to get wide receivers who are the equal, but within our scheme of what the Cincinnati Bengals are putting out on the field. The news that the Steelers went out and got
2-year
Mitch
deal
Trubisky.
for Mitch Trubisky.
I mean,
Yoo-hoo!
you want to know how you're in a world of shit? I'm going Full Metal Jacket here on everybody. I am in a world of shit. You know you're in a world of shit when you get Trubisky, but in the same breath you say, but that doesn't mean that Mason Rudolph's out of the running here. They're not getting rid of him. And it's like, now there's two of them. This is like a mushrooming problem. One of them will be the starting quarterback, and one of them will be put in when the other one fails, and it will be the revolving door. You remember what that's like, Cleveland. So I'm not so worried about the Steelers right now, but I do look at the Bengals, and we got to get a wide receiver room that is capable within our scheme the same way that Cincinnati's is. We got to be able to put points on the board, score in the red zone. That's the deal.
We still need a D-line, too. It sucks that they re-signed B.J. Hill, who the Browns are looking at.
I know we were interested, and, you take care of what you got to take care of. And the thing with Cincinnati is you got to bolster the offensive line, and that's where your main resources are going to go. But you got to run the football because you cannot keep dropping Joe Burrow to pass that many times in a game.
Yeah.
And their running back situation is not great in Cincinnati, and Mixon has been injured on numerous occasions. So, they have the issues that they have to deal with, and we have ours, and I agree with you. Clowney going away, and he will because he'll get the money. And he doesn't care. He doesn't care where he goes at this point because I think he realizes at 29 years of age, this is it, baby. And thank you, Cleveland, for putting me in a position to make the money I'm about to make. Amen.
We have a breaking Browns signing.
Yes, fire away, Tony. And thanks. I appreciate, you and Derek are always the guys who scour. Go ahead.
Is it DJ
Scour.
Jones?
No, the Browns have signed defensive tackle Taven Bryan to a 1-year deal.
Where is he from?
He is 1 year, $5 million deal. He is a former Jaguars first-round pick in 2018. Stats last year, he had 15 total tackles, 10 solo, 5 assisted, and 2 sacks.
Depth.
So he was a backup.
Yeah, he's a depth guy.
All right.
So average
1 year,
starter.
$5 million.
That's interesting that they would use that money on a guy who is just a spare part. Very interesting.
Didn't they draft, what was it, fucking guy from Ohio State last year?
Tommy
Togia.
Yeah. Still have Tack McKinley. I mean, aren't they pretty set off at defensive tackle? Why are they signing defensive tackles?
No, we only have
Because
two.
Go ahead, Peter.
I was just gonna say we only have two interior D linemen signed right now under contract. I mean, Tommy Togiai and Jordan Elliott, who's been on the team for 3 years now.
All right. So
And we don't have the other Tack because he ripped the bumper off of a fucking car in greens, wearing nothing but green socks, and then assaulted a police officer in Florida.
right.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So he's still dealing with that.
Well, I mean, that's not something you deal with. That's mental illness, and that could be the.
Well, but I mean, as far as a legal.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
He's still awaiting. I think he's still in jail.
Unless he thinks he's going to come back to the league and block with his penis, I have no idea what the thought about. And that's an unfortunate thing because he actually had so many problems, and he had a good season for the Browns, but it all came unglued mentally. The guy's got immense problems. Yeah, we need more help in the interior line, and we also are going to need a defensive end because of Clowney going away. So these are things. The next
Rox.
thing, go ahead.
Hi, Rox.
Oh, yeah. So I just got back with the hound. Um, you know, amidst all of this, all right, and the Dallas Cowboys is interesting. Coming off an ACL, Michael Gallup got a 5-year, $62 million deal, and then they turned around and who was the other guy? Cedric
Wilson, he's gone.
Wilson.
Cedric Wilson, he's good.
Yep. Didn't they sign him?
Yeah, which made Amari Cooper expendable.
Right. So that's that's the money that Dallas put in to replace Amari Cooper.
Well, and Dallas is also expected to re-sign Dalton Schultz or extend.
And quite honestly, for those people who are doing the quarterback mamba, the boom, 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 or the bossa nova, leave me alone about Carr. Leave me alone about,
I swear, if we get him,
no, it's not going to happen. Again, it's the same reasoning, a different reasoning, but the same sane mind. You got to be cool-headed about this kind of stuff. And honestly, the Cleveland Browns weren't going to get Deshaun Watson, and they're not going to trade in Baker Mayfield for a 31-year-old guy who has a career record of 57-70. Would you please just wake up and think about this stuff? I mean, the only way you would get rid of a guy who brought you in one game away from the AFC Championship 2 years ago, the only way you'd go away from him is if there was some incredible thing that was put on your plate in front of you. But especially when you're general manager, when Andrew Berry goes out and he says, he's our guy, Baker Mayfield's our guy. Can you imagine if they brought in Derek Carr? Can you imagine how every player in that locker room would feel? There would be a total lack of trust. I mean, there's just no way that it's happening. And it's not because I'm a Baker lover. I'm just telling you, in business, you can't sit there and say that in a press conference. And you know that Andrew Berry says as little as he can possibly say. But that was blunt and direct. He's the guy in 2022. That's going to be the basis of whether he stays with the team and gets re-signed or not. Hello, Christopher Milton Sr. How are you? Go ahead.
And the thing about Derek Carr is he has 1 year left on his deal. So if you're trading for him, you're going to have to do the extension. And I don't want the Browns to have to do that, not knowing how he would be in Cleveland.
Well, and you're talking $38 million a year. Which means who are you going to
for an older guy too?
Ward, or are you going to release Nick Chubb, or are you going to release? Pick your poison on which great player on the defensive side of the ball you want to get rid of.
Well, here, I guess for me, looking at what we've done up to this point, and
he will never win a playoff game in fucking Cleveland. Oh, by the way.
Yeah. And that's what Bozo is saying here. He's backing you up, that he's horrible in cold weather. And that is a factor, of course. Didn't stop Josh Allen, of course. Josh Allen in Wyoming knows what cold weather is. So, a good quarterback doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, it's almost as cold at Buffalo as it is where he played in Wyoming in December.
Robbie, Terry Bradshaw played in Louisiana, but he had no trouble just transferring it over to cold weather. I mean, it's all bullshit. I mean, some players have a problem with it, and if they have a problem with it, they can't play in cold weather. That's that. Not a big deal. Let me see where I'm at. I lost my place for a moment. The day two coming up in the draft, all right? The reason that, and I don't think that Allen Robinson is going to come to Cleveland. I don't think the Browns will pay the ransom price, to be very honest with you. I think the Browns are going to draft the wide receiver in the first round. I do feel that you may have to give up maybe your number 13 and maybe the better of your third round picks to move up and get the man you want at wide receiver. That's what it takes. That's what it takes, because the Falcons are in our way. They're looking to take Wilson just as sure as I'm sitting here. They need a wide receiver.
And Washington might want him too.
I mean, and so that's where, if you want to play a game of chicken, or you can make sure that it's going to cost us, but we got to get this done. So the second and third round becomes of great importance. If we do have to move up, we're definitely going to lose one of those third rounders. If we don't have to move up, then we have less to worry about, and we can just wait until the third round. One of those smaller receivers, the Calvin Austin kinds of guys, might be, or Sky Moore. These guys
Sky
might,
Moore.
these guys might be around in the third round, one of the two, and you can go that route if you want to go that route. But to me, it's a lot better to go after the guy that you need in the first round and to do what it takes to get him. And then with your second round pick, do something on the defensive end front, the pass rush, so that, again, it's not going to be this nonstop double teaming of Myles Garrett, that we're going to have a chance to have another guy who can get in the backfield. That's what my belief is. Any opinions from the panel?
No, I just want to say this. I wanted to place a wager, or just a way to get the biggest virtual coffee mug, because I think at 13 the Browns are going to draft Jameson Williams, because I honestly think
Really?
I think Garrett Wilson's probably going to be the first.
Going to be gone.
Yeah, and I've heard that the Browns at the Combine, they really liked him, so I think if it's between the two, they'll take Garrett, but I really think he's going to be the first receiver taken. And
Yeah,
we're
but
gonna take
Jameson
Williams.
Jameson Williams, how is he going to help the Browns coming off of an injury, though?
Because
How does it help us now?
They do have Cooper, though.
Well, the Cooper's one guy.
That's right. It's exactly right. I mean, the
One
thing,
guy against four does not work.
I think somebody's phone is buzzing, Tony. That might be you.
I'm sorry, that was me.
Double P. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem. But again, with Jameson, he's if you can't participate right off the bat, then again, you're going to short the quarterback who may or may not be your long-term guy. You got to find out. But you don't want to go into this shorting him at the wide receiver. And I think a lot of people believe that Wilson's going to be gone before 13. That's why I trade up to get him. But I'm aggressive that way. I'd rather have the one thing that I absolutely need than, what the Browns used to do, which is, we'll trade down and get more spare parts. I don't believe that a fallback is, there are times when a fallback position, if somebody's foolish enough, like the Herschel Walker thing, if somebody trades their whole draft for one guy, then I can understand it.
Mike Ditka.
Yeah. But, I don't see the Browns are in a position right now. They're at a crossroads where they have to, what are they? Are they the 12-5 or are they the 8-9? What are they? And this coming season is going to tell the world what they are. And if it's 8-9, then Baker's not going to be around any longer. And it's even more imperative that we have great young wide receivers for whoever is next, because it ain't going to be no highlight reel champion, but we got to get the guys open so that a mediocre quarterback can get the ball in their hands. That's kind of the way I look at it. And I know Perry and Winfrey, there's a lot of talk about that. Anybody have an opinion on the panel about Winfrey?
I think the second round's a little rich for him. Third or fourth is good. But some defensive tackle guys I saw in it, like Logan Hall, he's 6'6", 280. He's a good guy, and he can play inside or edge. I've seen him mocked to the Browns a lot. And then also another good guy they can maybe get is Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State, a D-end. I think he's also another good guy. He came from a smaller school, and his production pretty much stayed the same once he came to Penn State. So I think he's another guy the Browns can look at.
Yeah. It was funny, looking at how teams approach things and the fans, if you want to call them, or the agitators, or whatever you want to refer to them as, just, and then a lot of fans who really are fans who are like running around with their chicken like their heads are cut off. You got to have composure. It's like playing a game of poker. Sometimes you just have to be patient in this. And it's the reason why, the Jacksonville Jaguars are premature ejaculators. I mean, this is an exhaustingly bad football organization in Jacksonville. And I understand Brandon Scherff's a good player, Christian Kirk's a good player, but when you spend $150 million in 3 hours, which is what they did, because they also got linebacker Aluakan and defensive tackle Faudakasi in the first 3 hours, along with Scherff and Kirk. I mean, Scherff is a guy, and they need a great guard on the offensive line to be able to protect their young quarterback, assuming that that he can get the job done. We don't have any one word or another. When you're a rookie quarterback, it's just like Tim Couch. Trevor Lawrence, it can go one way or the other, but you better protect him because it can only go one way if you don't. He was the fifth overall pick. Yeah, right. David Carr, right. Scherff was the 5th overall pick in the 2015 draft. He was one of the best guards during his 7 years with the Washington football team. The Commanders. I'm going to have trouble with that. Yeah. He's a great run and pass protection, and he's a good open field blocker too. Here's the deal. He's 30 years old. He's had a lot of injuries, but he made the Pro Bowl in 5 of the past 6 seasons. He was an All-Pro in 2020. But a 30-year-old offensive lineman, that puts him in our territory. We got guys, and you see how offensive linemen collect injuries. And it's really scary. That's one thing I'm worried about the Browns, probably more than anything, is that guys who are not that old, who've had so many injuries, and when you find out that a team spent $150 million in 3 hours, you know that Scherff's going to get hurt. It's the fucking Jaguars, and it's a desperation move. Got to protect Trevor Lawrence. You got to do it. You got to get a receiver. So you get a guy who had 982 yards in receiving yards in Christian Kirk, and you pay him, in essence, $18 million. It was like guaranteed money. And, and last year was his first season playing a complete number of games. So, he had 5 touchdowns. He was the number 3 receiver behind DeAndre Hopkins and A.J. Green in Arizona. You can speak intelligently, Brian, more than any of us about him, right?
Yeah, he's been a pretty decent player.
Is that what Trevor Lawrence is going to need?
What? The Christian Kirk? Yeah, because they're getting rid of DJ Chark.
Yep.
They really don't have anybody else.
But Chark was a big guy. He was a big-bodied guy.
Well, but they're still getting rid of him.
Yeah, but I'm saying
him getting hurt.
So
is what messed him up.
And like Amari Cooper with the Browns, Christian Kirk automatically comes in and is the best receiver on the team.
Yeah, but he's not a one.
And most accomplished. But
Yeah,
He's not a one.
2.
Yeah. And, to pay the kind of money that they just shelled out for a 2 and a 30-year-old offensive lineman, I mean, I don't know. And if Oluwakan led the NFL with 192 tackles, but that's for the Falcons. There were a lot of tackles to be made because their defense was on the field all the time.
Yeah.
And,
Davis is a monster. To
Who is?
answer Alistair Erskine, he's asking about Davis from the DT from Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
That
Oh,
was
God.
the super freak from the Combine.
Yeah, strong. Yeah.
Fast.
Faudacasi started 15 games for the lousy Jets and had 46 tackles, whoop-de-doo. Window dressing. So this is what the haul was for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I point this out not to ridicule Jacksonville, but to point out that patience can be utilized when you're a better team, when you're not a better, you know what happens to teams that panic and shit their pants at draft time? They end up going, let's get Manziel. He said he's going to wreck the league. That's the kind of thing that a bad, desperate team does. You got to hold your water. You really do. You got to hold your water to get through this period. And I'll say this. Andrew Berry, you can say, well, he paid $20 million for Amari Cooper. But if Christian Kirk got 18, then $20 million's of relative value. Would we all agree with that?
You said what?
Oh, way to go. I said, if Christian Kirk makes $18 million, is paying $20 million really overpaying, or is it a relative value in getting Amari Cooper?
Yeah,
it was always a relative value because you were already paying Beckham almost $17 million.
Yeah.
And so, to replace him with an actual professional, yes.
Hello, Tony Stone.
I'll just go ahead and answer his question. They couldn't stop Cooper Kupp if they were fucking in front of a Putin firing squad. So I don't know what to tell you. They got their ass beat. And at the end of the game, or in the second half, I think Joe Burrow hurt his knee again. So, hey, shit happens, man. It would have been nice to see the Lombardi come to Ohio, but yeah, it happens. It was another Tim. It wasn't as bad as the Tim Krumrie injury in 1989.
I don't even. I know who Tim Krumrie was, but if he got
he
hurt,
was the one that suffered. He was their superstar defensive tackle all fucking year.
Everybody just
had
like
made the Pro Bowl, and he was going against Sapolu and I forget the other guy's name, and he got flipped and his leg got caught in the turf and it snapped both bones in his lower ankle.
Ooh.
And yeah, when he got, you could see it flopping behind him in the replay. So I'm a huge Bengals fan. No, I really fucking hated Joe Montana and the fucking 49ers. I got tired of seeing them in the fucking Super Bowl every fucking time.
The Carolina Panthers, their pass rusher Hassan Reddick, he's ready to sign with the Eagles. It's interesting that it's down to New Orleans and Carolina for Deshaun Watson, and neither team is ready to win.
Yeah.
And that's what you call, hey, if you're going to haul in the money, that's fine and dandy.
But if you're Carolina, you have to realize it's like, well, fuck, we need a quarterback. We can't go another year with Sam Darnold and fucking.
Well, I mean, quite honestly, what killed them was Cam Newton. when Cam Newton couldn't come back from the arm injury, that organization got shorted the benefit of the best years of that player because it was taken away from him with injury. And now nobody talks about him. He's just an afterthought. It's just like RG3. These guys come and they go. And so it will be with quarterbacks who are running quarterbacks from now until the end of time. Here today, gone tomorrow. You take a look at the guys who stayed in the league for a long time, you know, and, you know, there are guys who are mobile. John Elway was a big guy, but he could run. But, I mean, Tom Brady doesn't run anywhere. You know, you start looking at the guys who've had long careers like Dan Marino and Jim Kelly. These guys were bigger, more rugged men. And quite honestly, they were not guys who were being told to run in between the tackles, right? Lamar Jackson is just another injury waiting to happen. And my mind becomes clearer and more positive as it goes. This is the way it's unfolding. So, you know, if Deshaun Watson wants to play with Carolina or New Orleans, that's fine. But both of those teams, I mean, there was a lot of gadgetry going on in New Orleans, and I don't know, their quarterback was, you know, one of these quasi-mobile guys, and I don't know that they have anywhere near the offensive scheme to justify a drop-back quarterback who is a downfield thrower like Deshaun Watson. And the Panthers, I can't tell you much except it's all gone to hell there. And Darnold,
the Panthers.
Huh?
I was saying the Panthers, they're pretty much, from reports I've heard, they're pretty much willing to offer him anything. They even said they'll let him pick out the next coach. So they're really desperate for him.
Oh, my God. I wonder if it's going to be one of his masseuses.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, hey, there's your diversity hire. They're all women.
God almighty. So tomorrow, if we had to make a prediction, who are the Browns going? What do you think they're going to land tomorrow? We'll start with Peter. What do you think?
I really think DJ Jones or Russell Gage, but I really think they're going to attack the D-line so they don't really have to force a need in the draft. So I think DJ Jones or just some other name that we don't know, since Andrew Berry likes to go through the weeds and find a guy.
Yeah, I mean, hey, DJ, how you doing? Do you think, Peter, that the Browns are just going to forget about wide receiver and free agency now that they got Amari Cooper? Is that going to be the extent of what they do in free agency that way?
Yeah, probably, because obviously the Kirk deal, some people are afraid that it kind of reset the market. And also the only guy they're kind of so far expressed interest is Allen Robinson. And I don't think they're probably going to sign him from what I've seen.
I just don't think it's that strong a sign. And I think that he's going to, you know, literally coattail his way into a hell of a nice contract because of the Christian Kirk contract. I think that he's going to make more money than he dreamed he was going to. I mean, let's be honest. Agba never thought. I mean, they were talking with Agba low double figures, like 12 million. What was it? 18 in the end? 18 million a year for Agba. So who's to say? Once it elevates like that at a position, that's what happens. You know, and again, I don't know who you're talking to. Oh, you're talking to DG. What if Wilson is already gone? I told you got to go up and get him. If that's what your plan of attack is, you got to get it done. It's all about getting the assets that you need. And when you're playing a high stakes poker game with a bunch of guys, owners who will do anything. Will spend any amount, will go to any length if they have to. And it was just like the Daniel Snyder thing. Daniel Snyder gets in the bidding for something that he wants. it doesn't matter. Son of a bitch will fuck you, fuck your mother, and fuck your in-laws. The guy doesn't care. There is no bluffing at this level. You go after what you want and get it, or you sit at the table and take your second or third choice and live with the results. That's why you got a goddamn board. That board is who you're going to draft come hell or high water. If you're just sitting on your hands praying to the baby Jesus that somebody's not going to jump in line in front of you, you're not, heads up, you're not playing the game. It's not a fun game, and in the end, it's ruthless because general managers will lose their careers, lose their money, lose their reputations based on these, last minute kinds of calculations, whether to call or whether to raise. Stakes are very high. So it's a tough job. And that is, some dumbass will jump ahead of you, but again, you got to take a look at the teams that need offensive line help. And you're going to see a lot of that happening in the very earlier picks. You're going to see, the needs of certain teams who have to protect their quarterback investments, and that's where they're going to go. But when it comes to wide receivers, believe me, somebody might jump out of nowhere. It's still no guarantee you're going to get Wilson. Don't get me wrong. If somebody just comes out of nowhere because it's like, best athlete available, then you're fucked. Got to have a plan B. And at receiver, at 13, plan B.
God help us if it's Flake.
Well, that's just it. But if it's somebody you don't want, you're not going to draft him, obviously. But
I don't want him, but that doesn't mean that, the assholes in Berea don't want him.
Yeah, well, I think that they're smart enough to know what the kind of receiver they're looking for. At that point, you take your first round and you go with the next position of need, and you go that way. And then in the second round, you look to take one of the other receivers who was there. I mean, at this point, what are you going to do? Treylon Burks, is that what you want?
No.
He'll be there in the second round. The kind of combine he had, he might still be around. I'm not saying...
I'd rather take it for that. I'd rather take the kid from North Dakota State.
Okay, Christian Watson, but Olave, he could be there. DG, he could be there.
No, he's going to get picked in the first round.
You never know what happens between now and then. You never know. But
he's too fast, and he's when you set the touchdown record for a major school, come on, man.
Yeah, the likelihood is that he and Wilson are going to go quick. And I'm just throwing Bronk here at the tail end of the program. Hi, Bronk.
Moo.
How's everything in jolly old England?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. We're still alive. There hasn't been any nuclear war or anything like that, so we're still alive. Jarvis Landry. Do we really think he's going to get paid somewhere? I actually see him coming back to the Browns because his injuries are.
So.
And the reason was the way the finality in which Andrew Berry thanked him for his service, but then at the end said basically the door was basically closed. They're not going to have the money to, and by the time. What do I think he's going to get paid?
What do you think he's going to get, man? Because I think he's going to get fuck all.
Okay. If Christian Kirk got $18 million and he's a young 25-year-old guy, and Jarvis Landry is 29, going on 30, and is busted up, and his body's broken down, I don't think he's going to get any more than, I would say, 10 mil a year.
Yeah, I don't even think that. I think
no, but I'm saying that would make his day. The reality is, if he only got $7 to $8 million a year, he could come back to the Browns. But it's hard to say what parameters. people put on money expenditure, but based on what I saw of him playing this last year, it was basically catch and fall down. Now, he explained in the aftermath how many injuries he was playing with. But these things do not totally heal. And when you hit 30, you don't get faster. You don't get stronger.
You die when you start hitting 30, man. You actually start dying.
It's bad timing. And, quite honestly, I think, I think the world of Jarvis Landry character-wise, I think a lot of Browns fans were grateful that he came to Cleveland when Cleveland was coming off an 0-16 season. That's wonderful. But you take a look at his circumstance, and his rookie contract was $3.74 million that he had to play through. Then when he played out his fifth year, he got bumped, and I forget the exact amount that he got bumped to, but then he signed with the Browns 5 years, $75 million. So that was his payday.
Correct.
By John Dorsey.
Yes, $15 million a year. All right. And he's not going to make the fifth year of that with the Browns. He's got to now find somebody else. It's very likely he could be halved, as Dewey Cox would say. Yeah, it's totally possible.
And the big thing with Jarvis was the big thing with him and the Browns. Jarvis wanted to add years, and the Browns weren't willing to add years for him. So he's kind of looking for security. He didn't mind the lower cap, but he just wanted the security of having more years on his contract.
Yeah. And look, right now, timing is so much a part of this. And an 0-16 team was willing to pay him $75 million, $15 million a year. Okay. Yeah. And so that was his moment in time. Now he's going to be 30 years old and he's beaten up. It's not his time. And he's trying to extend the number of years that he gets guaranteed. So, what I would tell him if I were his financial advisor, you shouldn't be spending so much fucking money and living large. It's like $75 million is enough to make it. Believe me, you can do that. But no, this is what's likely to happen is that people will balk. The 30 has become the new 40. In the NFL, you take a look at running backs. Nobody wants to touch a running back who's over 30. Nobody. When you're in the legs and running business, and that goes for wide receivers, it's not. You cross that plane, it's not so good. Especially if you're an inside receiver like Landry, who took hits his whole career.
Yeah, he got killed. I mean, he has no ribs left, does he? I mean, I don't know. I mean, what do we think of Tom Brady coming back? Browns get to play him at First Energy Stadium. Wouldn't it be nice to see one of our D-line end his career finally once and for all?
Well,
you missed that on the pregame.
I'll say what I said I was going to say, then what I said I wasn't going to say, but I will, and I'm not wishing anything. I want to, again, preface what I say.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, everybody knows that I am a vocal supporter of the players in regard to player safety, and I'm appalled at the lack of concern on the part of the NFL about things like brain trauma. But on the other hand, when a guy's 44 years old, he's the greatest of all time. He's racked up so many trophies. He's had so many MVPs. He's got so many Super Bowls. Everybody recognizes him as a great player. He's got a beautiful wife. He's got a family. He's got God only knows how many mansions. And the guy lives a lifestyle of the rich and famous. And he can't ride off into the sunset. And he's got to come back that one more time. If this guy ends up with brain damage, I'm not going to feel bad about this.
It's not our fault if he has brain damage. Absolutely. I mean, we're old enough to remember Willie Mays when the New York Mets signed him.
40-year-old Willie?
40-year-old Willie Mays with the New York Mets, man. He could barely walk. So,
and not only that, I mean, what was terrible with Willie Mays was that he would misjudge fly balls and they'd go over his head.
Yeah.
Oh. Painful.
Well, and how many fucking times did Brett Favre talk about retiring, and then he gets dealt off to the Jets, and then he finally gets to sign with the Minnesota Vikings? How many years did you go through that? Oh shit, he's gone. Tony,
Yeah.
Oh, Tony the Calf. Yeah, they got Kirk Cousins back, didn't they?
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
But
But
no,
he's
you know,
partying.
the fact of the matter is, and that Favre does have damage.
Favre!
Yeah, for as long as he played. I don't
Well,
want to
some of
see that happen.
Some
But
of that is drug and alcohol abuse too. Don't put that all on football.
well, I mean, lifestyle will have something to do with this type of thing too. But Tom Brady, this is a guy who, you know, I don't understand when is enough enough. I think I can intelligently speak that, yeah, there's a time to be young, throw down the gauntlet and charge and challenge. And there's a time when you're finished. And, when I saw, national companies buying up every radio station in America and deregulation as the law of the land, doesn't take a genius to find that you're being circled by wagons. You get out, and you get out when you have to get out. You may not be happy about it totally, but geez, I mean, you get a payday, you get out. It's not the worst thing in the world. You end up doing a podcast for 19 years and making no money doing it because I was fortunate enough to get out at the right time in the radio business. But in the football business, the gods are not so kind. And, you have an opportunity to walk away whole and healthy. It's foolish and it's egotistical, and he has to have the spotlight on him. It is a frailty of character.
Couldn't agree more, Moo. I mean, he's going to the well once too often, and when that happens, something bad's probably going to happen to him. So,
and I don't want it to happen.
San Francisco.
But say what?
I say he wants to go to San Francisco.
So did Tony Bennett. All right, that's it. I'm done for the night. I'm going to watch the Cavaliers. God only knows. We're getting some players back tonight. We're at home against the Clippers. We'll see what happens. And it's been a tough go for the Cavaliers.
Yeah, we're sliding.
Yeah, but I'll cheer them on because they're my team. And believe me, I say that with capital letters based on all the shit reading I did on Twitter today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. I appreciate your support and your understanding. Thank you, Bronk, calling in, Tony, Gon, Peter, thank you, and Brian, thank you. And we'll be back again on Friday with the next installment of the show. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Bye, Kay.
Colts get Derek Carr.
Did they?
really?
No.